Thank you guys all for being here today. We really appreciate it. And I'm thrilled to be sitting with both of you who have accomplished so much. And both of you work in businesses that are so sprawling that I'm really interested in how everything connects, because I think that's one of the keys to both of what you guys do, is making sure that, whether it's concerts or buildings or teams, that not only can one inform the other, but sometimes they actually relate to another. And Magic's business is exactly the same way, which is kind of what I wanted to start with, because he's really the prototype in so many ways of an athlete who didn't just walk off the court and go into the pasture. He decided that he wanted to be involved as an activist, as an owner, and all the different businesses he got into. How did that happen? And then, of course, I also have to ask, as the person in charge of executing all of that, of the whirlwind inside of his brain, how do you guys manage to do that so successfully?
Well, I always talk about being. He always says I'm a little boy from Lansing. And to me, it's called a perfect storm, because this little boy from Lansing that was named Magic in junior high is now in the big city of Los Angeles with Jerry Buss, who is a visionary, and the Lakers. He couldn't write the story any better. And his biggest things, he always wanted to be a businessman. Mm-hmm. So he took the opportunity while he was on that court to meet everyone that's at courtside. He also talked to Jerry Buss and said, hey, I need the top 50 names of the millionaires and the CEOs who are here in Los Angeles. And he called each one of them and said, hey, I'd love to meet you for lunch. And he sat with, and of course, no one said no. And so he met with them, and he literally talked to them, got advice. They told him what he needed to do. They wanted to make sure he was serious, because you can also walk in and get a signature and an autograph and a picture and be out. But he made sure to follow up and to do what they said. And so that's really how we got started, was making those relationships. And of course, he kept in touch with a lot of the guys that he ended up doing deals with. And he likes to say that he doesn't like to do one deal. He wants to do 3, 5, 7 deals. Right, so people like Peter Gruber and Mark Walters, he's done multiple deals with, and he loves to do that.
Yeah, which is both music to your ears and a lot then on your desk.
Oh,
so
it makes it easy.
There you go. Of course, no question. I mean, it's funny. AEG sort of really started getting into business with Magic when he was offered a piece of the Lakers, and how have you seen the landscape change so much from your side of the business, and in fact, taken advantage of the fact that athletes are now interested in following in Magic's footsteps?
Yeah, I'll never forget. I mean, Philly Anschutz was never in the sports and entertainment business. He was always in oil and gas and telecommunications and railroads and real estate and all these other businesses. And it wasn't until the mid-'90s that when he bought the Kings where he wanted to be in the sports and entertainment business. And back then, he became partners with Irvin and with Dr. Buss. And I'll never forget kind of getting the job for the Kings back then, being at the Forum. My office door was maybe 5 doors down from the Forum Club. And, we're building Staples Center back then, so we're working late night every night. And we'd be there on Laker game nights, and we'd use the Forum Club and have dinner and go back to work while the Laker game was going on. But just sort of being there and seeing that connection between sports and entertainment, and the people that were coming in and out of, walking by, like down 20 feet from me, walking in and out of the Forum Club every night, and understanding the connection between sports and Hollywood and entertainment and music, I think it really informed not only a lot of decisions we made as we were building Staples Center, as we built our other venues, but sort of the businesses and the cross-section, and how you can really activate different assets to make the sum greater than its parts. And it informed, well, we should be in the music business, or we should be in the entertainment district business, or we should be in the concert business, or other sports teams and other sports properties. So I think kind of being around Magic and seeing, how innovative Dr. Buss was in those early years, I think laid the foundation for a lot of what we've done over the last 25 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. This panel is the Sports Entertainment Nexus. I sometimes feel like it should be called the Sports Entertainment Celebrity Nexus, because it is such a huge part of how things go back and forth. You mentioned no one's saying no to Magic for lunch, and they want the autograph and the photo. And you talk about the Forum Club, which was so innovative and just made everybody want to be there and be seen. And when you're building the Staples Center, I was in Boston last night. I was courtside with Paul Pierce for an event. And at halftime, we get whisked off the court and we get sent back to the club. club, and the club where all the courtside people are, and you can sort of mingle, and people are shaking hands, and little business transactions are happening. Of course, you invented that at the Staples Center with the Chairman's Club.
Yeah, and it was funny. We weren't necessarily thinking that this was going to be, for the masses, but we needed some place where courtside seat holders would sit or where ice seat holders would sit, and we want a place to go that was nice in between periods or in between at halftime and have a drink and do business, but have it be like a beautiful club. And there was nothing really like that anywhere. You had it in the skyboxes and you had it in clubs in different places, but no place right off the court. So we built that club to be, and if you've been to the original Chairman's Club there, it's tiny. It's, you could fit cram 40 people in there if you want to break the code violation. But so we built that for that purpose, and then it really kind of caught on, and it led to us having to expand it and make it bigger. But it was kind of that celebrity, see and be seen place, and it works in LA. We put it in London. There's certain places where it works really, really well, and obviously in LA with the stars, it really resonates.
I like that idea. Oh, go ahead.
I'm still stuck on that his office was right down the hall from the Forum Club.
I mean,
I don't know if people realize what that meant, but a lot of things happen at the Forum Club, and I know you have stories.
It's a very tiny little. You've seen the offices there, and there's very, very few offices, and I've seen some things.
Yeah.
Was there anything you may be able to repeat here that about one particular person that jumps out that is appropriate for lunchtime?
I see cameras. I'm going to respectfully decline.
I'm a reporter. I got to try. Come on. I like that idea though of what happened with the Forum Club influencing how you built the Staples Center, and then that influencing when you were doing the O2 and everything in London. How have you seen success in one arm of one business influence what you do in another business you guys are into, even if they're totally different? Because you're in movie theaters, but you're also over here, and you're in media, and you're doing different things. I assume, though, you can draw from each one of them.
Yeah, and that's what we try to do, is that we have businesses that are across the board, and we're trying to connect the dots. So we own Sodexo Magic, which is a food services and facilities management. And so a lot of times when we're working with AEG or anywhere else, we're trying to get, Sodexo Magic in the door.
Right.
So there's different ways that we try and connect the dots with life insurance. We have our infrastructure fund, and then of course with our teams. And I'll talk a little bit just on the community impact piece to it, because everything that we do has to make money, but also do good. He won't do anything that, one, doesn't make money, but two, doesn't make an impact. Because he's not going to make money and it's going to hurt someone, or he can't give back in some way. But he doesn't necessarily go and just give back without making sure that you can continue to do it. So a lot of times when you look at our businesses, we are figuring out how can we do more, and how can he not only generate revenue, but how can he also take care of the community, take care of the neighbors in the area surrounding where we work. So
I mean, I assume it helps to have the most charismatic man on earth as your
Yeah.
closer in the business.
Yeah.
I'm curious how hard it was to convince certain companies to invest in communities and parts of cities that, frankly, they just weren't and refusing to do before he came along.
Well, and look, in the beginning, it was really hard for him because, and everyone looks at an athlete, they play ball, they don't know anything else. So he would go into those meetings and guys would meet with him and say thank you and take a picture and leave. And I would say really the Sony deal with Peter and the Starbucks deal with Howard Schultz actually catapulted him to where he is now. Those two deals really helped put him on the map. It helped show that he had a business sense, that he knew what he was doing. I mean, when he built the theaters, he tells a story that he went into the community, and it was an area that had the Crips and the Bloods, and he went and met with each group, the head of each group. And he said, I want this theater to be a safe zone. Think about your mothers, your daughters, your family members being there. And so you can't wear baseball caps. You need to come in, you cannot wear colors, and this is gonna be a safe zone. And I'm gonna give each group jobs. So he hired both sides and had them work on building the theaters. But it was his sense of, this is how we're gonna make this happen, this is how we're gonna make it successful.
Yeah, and that's amazing, and not only a testament to him and what he wanted to do, but what he's capable of doing.
Yeah.
And you guys are coming at it kind of almost from the other end, where you can take athletes, these superstars, these charisma machines, and say, here's what we can offer you. Here's how we can help you grow your business. I know with David Beckham, that was a big part of bringing him into the Galaxy. Can you tell us a little bit about how that worked?
Yeah, and he's looking really smart right about now for that deal that he did when he came in and played for the Galaxy so many years ago. Part of his deal, as it's been well publicized, was he had the right to a franchise at a predetermined price, which at the time we thought, that's a big price. And now you see in Sportico, teams valued at $1 billion or more, and suddenly David's looking pretty smart at the price he got in on. But yeah, I think you have like Irvin did, who has his eye on a life after his playing career.
Yeah.
But I mean, no one does it like Irvin. I mean, he's incredible because he's smart. He does the work. He's an incredible entrepreneur and a businessman, and committed to it. But David was similar. He was thinking about life after his playing career and wanted to be involved in MLS. He believed in MLS. He helped build it, and it's only natural. I mean, it kind of reminds me of kind of the investment in the Lakers, which is that AEG made and that Phil Anschutz made, is that, I want to be involved with this. I think this is going to grow. I think we're going to help it grow by building a new arena downtown and building LA Live, and there's going to be a lift here, and we'd like to participate in that. I think David saw the same thing, which is he saw the upside. He recognized the opportunity, being an international player that had played for the biggest clubs in the world, and realized that, I think I'm going to create value here. I'd like to participate in it. And he did, and then he did.
And I think that's important to also mention the value, because not all of our deals do we put cash in. It's really looking at the brand that he's built and how you can use the value of the name and the IP and the services and what he can do to build a business. And we'll say, hey, there's value in that. What do we get for that?
Sure.
And then, by the way, if we want to put cash in, we can add cash as well. So I think it's important to state that, because you're looking at it from that lens at all times. How can I help grow the business outside of that?
Of course, even once you make those investments, the business keeps changing, right,
Yeah,
around you.
absolutely.
I mean, you mentioned the movie theaters. Well, movie theaters took a big hit during the pandemic, and how much movies are being shown in theaters at all has really changed. I mean, there's so
Fortunately,
many.
we sold that.
Yeah.
Good timing.
As an example, though, I mean, that's something people can relate to, though, is that, the business model changes. You guys have dealt with that with streaming and TV rights and everything else. There's a real sticking point in this country right now with regional sports networks, right? And that you've got a huge bankruptcy affecting a huge number of networks and teams across the country. You've got teams like in Washington, D.C., where they're trying an entirely different model. You've got teams that are asking for the league to take things over and have just sort of a general place where people can watch all local games. How are you handling that? What's your view on it?
Well, we have a couple of different stakes in that, and we're dealing, as you mentioned, the bankruptcy of Diamond Sports, and we're dealing with that with the Kings right now. And I think it's challenging all of us to think of different ways to create value. You would, up until now, you would think, every 5 years I'm going to really leverage a great new deal on my RSN, and player salaries are going up, but I know I'm going to get another bite at the apple because my deal's up in 3 years and I'm going to go and turn the screws and do that. But those days are sort of over now, and sort of flat is the new up, and people are understanding that, rights fees in some local cases are going down. So I think it's a real challenge for all of us to, how do we reach new fans? How do we identify new revenue streams to replace with something that was usually very reliable and growing? And I think it's caused us to think about, how do we broaden our audience? And you see a lot of deals now happening where there are different pieces of your broadcast strategy, and you have an over-the-air piece. And we dabbled in that this year with the Kings, where we said, we're going to take a handful of games and we're going to go over the air. And instead of seeing a subscriber base that's going from 2 million to 1.5 to 1.3, we're going to take some games and invest and bet on ourselves, and we want to go over the air, and we're going to reach 6 million people. And that's how we're going to identify new fans. Because one of my concerns when I think about the RSN model is, how do you get the next fan? Reaching if you're the NFL, you don't have to worry. The fans are going to find you. But how do we, whether it's in Major League Soccer or the NHL, where I'm in the business of selling tickets, I'm in the business of creating fandom, and where is that next generation, and how do I meet them where they are? And how do I create content for our social platforms, or short form, or streaming services, or documentaries? And I think, I think about, Irvin, he had a fantastic documentary. And I think that was a way of reaching a new and different audience. So I think that's, a challenge, but an opportunity too.
I mean, the business plan for reaching the new audience and the millennials is just have one of your players date Taylor Swift. So I think that's a big business plan, but sure. The documentary was excellent. What made you guys decide to go in that direction, and not just from the idea of spreading Magic's story, but how has it helped you in other ways?
You know what? People have come to him for a while asking him to do a story, and he had a couple books out, and finally. It was actually around COVID time, and after Jordan's, he was thinking about it, and then Jordan's came out, and
is he competitive?
in everything.
So if Michael had a documentary,
so I gotta have one. No, he really he thought about it because it's a scary place to go to.
Sure.
And we talked about it because he really wanted to tell his story. So it was more than just about basketball. Yeah. It was about Magic. And he put me in charge of it, which was crazy because I'd never done anything like it.
Madame Executive Producer.
And he honestly, he didn't see it until it came out in public. He wouldn't look at any of it.
No.
And so I worked with the producers and I said, here's kind of the storyline. There's a Irvin and there's a Magic. And there's a very big difference between Magic and Irvin. So if you're sitting in a business room in a meeting with him, you're talking to Irvin, and he's asking you questions, and it's competitive, and it's the art of war in business. Mm-hmm. And then if you're talking to Magic, then you're talking to that entertainer. You're talking to this bright light that can play ball and can walk through this room and just empower everyone in this room. And we wanted to tell that story, and we wanted to tell it from his parents and his siblings all the way up to the success that he is now, and he let us, take it there, and I'm hoping people enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's gotten raves, and I do think it exposes him the same way with that Michael's, documentary happened, mm-hmm. that it exposes him to a younger audience who, time moves quickly. I can sit here and say I sat courtside and covered some of these guys, and I've got younger colleagues saying, I'm sorry, who are you talking about? And you have a generation, too, that is not watching long-form TV broadcasts anymore. They're not watching a 3-hour game. Yeah. They're not watching 2.5 hours sitting in front of the TV. So it is these short clips and things like that, seeing something presented in more of an entertainment form. Yeah. You mentioned trying to shape, how am I reaching younger viewers or younger people? Do you find the challenges different in your music ventures versus your team ventures?
Music is so much different because the way music discovery is so easy now. Mm-hmm. And what we see in our music business is there are no borders anymore. And that with unlimited access to streaming and with international artists, if you look at Coachella, if you look at it 15 years ago, it was a pretty narrow genre selection. Mm-hmm. Right. When you look at that. But if you look at it the last several years, it's incredible because the kid, it skews very young, mm-hmm. but I look at my own daughters and the way they discover music. And if you look at the lineup, we've had a K-pop headliner in the last couple of years. We've had a lot of Latin music. We've had electronic dance music. We've had country. We've had some nostalgia acts. So it's really incredible. So I find it easier. And at first you would think, well, the audience is going to be fragmented and how are you going to fill your arenas? But you've seen the exact opposite because it's so easy to discover new music that there are just so many more artists that have incredible appeal. And then you have international fans coming. If you look at the demographics and the zip code, the heat map on Coachella, they come from all over the world. And it's really been a shot in the arm for those festivals because there's not 5 headliners that you can have anymore. There's 25 possible headliners. So I think in some ways music is easier, mm-hmm. and I think we have to hustle a little more to create those stories and create those personalities with additional content and activating our social platforms and getting people to know our young players. And it's more of a push. And I find that if you have a great artist, that the fans will find you.
To me, the most sort of iconic musical festival performance the last 10 years is Beyonce at Coachella. I'm curious how that came together.
That's a perfect example of sort of a genre busting. You would think 20 years ago, would you think of Beyonce headlining Coachella? No. And she's, the most iconic, probably, if you ask anyone in this room, it's probably the number one performance that they can remember. But she's incredible because you look at her now with her with her sort of country, and now we're thinking, well, maybe she'll play stagecoach, which would be that would be something.
I have a feeling that phone call's already been made, but
But it's crossing genres, it's crossing generations, and I think what the founder of Coachella always wants to do is wants to be relevant, doesn't want to be nostalgic and legacy. There's some of that, but it's really about being ahead of the curve and finding the next big artist and really kind of being on the cutting edge when it comes to music. And that's a perfect example.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Where in your different businesses have you found sort of the biggest challenge in trying to tell the story in a different and newer way?
God, that's a good question. You know, we don't really think about it that way.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, because some of our businesses, as Irvin puts it, they're not sexy. You know, infrastructure is not sexy. We're building, you know, LaGuardia's terminal. We're at JFK. We're doing the LAX cargo.
I travel a lot. That is very sexy to me.
You know, for people that are there, maybe
a good
you
new
know.
airport terminal. You
But
guys
you know,
travel.
to promote
you know.
that or talk
means-
about it, people are like, "Oh, wow!" And it's like, even with our food services, like we
Yeah.
actually have the Delta Airlines Club, we have the American Airlines Club, we have the Centurion Club in certain cities. So people don't realize that Sodexo Magic. We also have Disneyland and Disney World. We don't necessarily have to promote it publicly,
Sure.
though, right?
Yeah.
That's more of a corporate B2B service. And quite honestly, we have 5 teams, and you know, we leave it up to our teams, the Dodgers, LAFC, the Sparks, Team Liquid, the Commanders. So they're marketing it, and then we're actually supporting it in whichever way we can. But our business is a little different.
A little bit, yeah. You're not on the front line of that with those teams.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's really supporting them on how best to do it or how best to utilize him, and growing the sponsorships or negotiating that deal or bringing consumers more into the fans, more into the team.
As two people with such varied businesses, how do you decide what's next? How do you decide what area you're going to go into next or what your new projects might be?
Well, I mean, we're in some great businesses, and when we look at kind of our core business of being in the sports business, being in the music business, where is the growth? We have iconic sort of real estate projects, but are there 20 more of O2s? Are there 20 more LA Lives out there? I'm not sure. But when we think about the technology side and we think about the value of content, sports content, music content, really valuable. The value of our digital platform, our ticketing system, really valuable, and tremendous opportunity to grow, not just domestically, but internationally. So we spend, I would say, a lot of time thinking about that side of the business. It's that intersection, like you said, of sports and entertainment. And I think that's where we invest a lot. You touched on sponsorship. I would imagine Irvin gets called on a lot to connect the dots with the different properties when it comes to sponsors. And I think that's an area of growth. Because I think what we see with a lot of our global partners is they want diversity of assets and programming. They want to have digital pieces. They want some signage. They want media. They want activation. They want an e-commerce piece. They want to be in different geographies. They want to be all around the world. So our biggest partners, I think we see a lot of opportunity, and our team, our global partnership team, does an amazing job at meeting their needs and growing those relationships to be across the world and across the platform.
What about with you guys?
It's a little different, but I would say, one, we read everything. Like, we have multiple papers. Irvin's reading, I'm reading. We even have our media person who constantly just gives us headlines of everything, and then we say, print that article. So we're constantly looking at what's out there, what's next. You know, everyone talks about AI. We're studying everything. We're talking to VCs and who's investing in AI and which one did you invest in? We want to understand it. So we're constantly taking calls and just reading. I would say also we receive, I don't know,
6 million in two pitches.
options. We get so many people just sending us opportunities, which, I mean, it's a blessing. So my job is actually just filtering, like clean this out, take this out, vet this. Okay, let's dig into these. Like, these fit what we're doing. It feels right. It fits. They have the right business team, right? They have the right management group. It fits, it aligns with what our morals, what our values are, what our business is about. We go through a full kind of list and say, okay, we're going to look at these. And I would say, you know, if we get a deal every day, we do only like 5 in the entire year.
Right.
That's got to be the hardest part, though, because I imagine you see everything.
Everything.
And there are great opportunities out there.
Yeah.
And we struggled with that a little bit when we were growing. Like, okay, does it fit? Is it strategic? Is there an opportunity to create value, or is it just a great standalone thing? And
Yeah.
and we made a lot of mistakes, and things look good, but if it doesn't fit into your strategy, that's where it's challenging. So I can imagine that's got to
Exactly.
be really hard for you guys.
And what's interesting is that, Irvin made the Forbes billion-dollar list. Little known secret, he was there before then, but it came out in the amount of calls and people that are like just sending us stuff. And so we really have to be, really diligent, because he also he's very relatable and doesn't want to ignore anyone. So we really have to kind of go through it, be polite. We send letters out. We try and make sure that we're very courteous and respectful of everyone and what they're doing. And their business could be great. It's just not for us.
I like the idea that anyone needed Forbes to let them know that Magic was rich. So, now we get phone calls.
But I
Absolutely.
imagine you're on that list, and it's
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
I guess I just want to wrap up with that idea. I mean, you talk about the idea about kind of getting this information from all sources, whether it's
Yeah.
newspaper headlines or whatever it is. That's what trend spotting is. It's immersing yourself in culture
Yeah,
and trying to see what next. And AI obviously feels like the biggest trend coming.
Yeah.
So I guess to just wrap up, how are you guys incorporating that? Is that your biggest trend that you're sort of keeping an eye on, and how are you incorporating that into your businesses?
I mean, clearly that is coming, and it's going to change the
Yeah.
way we do our business, obviously. But I think technology in general, which is why we're investing so much in our ticketing platform and our data, and a way of using that to identify new fans. We're great at identifying the fans we already have, or someone who's bought before, or someone who's already been into the arena before. But to me, it's about identifying the new fans and casting a wider net. So I think that's how we're looking to use it to create smarter marketing campaigns. Everything has shifted to digital already. So the way we market shows now and concerts is totally different than the way we did it even 5 years ago. So if AI can help us to design campaigns and to reach new fans, that's the part that I'm interested in.
Oh, it's fascinating, absolutely, and I'm very excited to see where each of you go next, because there's one of the most exciting things about watching both of these businesses is the unpredictability that now they're into that. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So we're looking forward to all of that. Thank you both so much for being here today.
Thank
we
you.
really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
And thank you, everyone
Thanks.
out there.